99% of native English speakers actually fail this logic test. Can you spot the hidden trap in question number 1? Let's see if you are truly a genius. 1. If you are running in a race and you pass the person in second place, what place are you in? The logical trap is thinking you take first place. However, if you pass the person in second place, you take their position, which makes you second. Option A is the common distractor. Because people assume passing the leader makes you first, but you did not pass the leader. 2. Which word is spelled incorrectly in every single English dictionary? This is a semantic riddle playing on literal meaning versus word identity. The word incorrectly is naturally spelled as incorrectly. Options A, C, and D are all actually spelled correctly within the pages of a dictionary. 3. I am lighter than a feather, yet the strongest man cannot hold me for much more than a minute. What am I? This tests vocabulary comprehension and logical deduction. You literally hold your breath, and humans cannot survive long without breathing, while air is light. You do not hold it in the same idiomatic sense. Shadows and secrets cannot be physically held by physical strength. 4. What word becomes shorter when you add 2 letters to it? This is a morphological logic puzzle. By taking the base word short and adding the suffix -er, you create the word shorter. The distractors become smaller, littler, and tinier, which do not spell the word shorter. 5. Which sentence is logically correct based on real-world capabilities? This tests vocabulary definitions. A blind man cannot see, a deaf man cannot hear, and a mute person cannot shout. However, a bald man can brush a hairpiece a wig, making D the only logically sound sentence. 6. Forward I am heavy, backward I am not. What am I? This riddle tests spelling logic palindromes and word reversals. The word ton represents a heavy unit of weight. Spelled backward, it becomes not, making the riddle literally true. The other options do not form new logical words when spelled backward. 7. What begins with T, ends with T, and has T in it? This plays on the double meaning of the letter T and the beverage tea. A teapot begins with the letter T, ends with the letter T, and contains TT inside it. The other options only fulfill the spelling criteria, but lack the logical double meaning. 8. What occurs once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years? This riddle requires you to look at the words as linguistic symbols rather than time concepts. The letter M appears once in the word minute, twice in the word moment, and 0 times in the phrase 1,000 years. 9. Which phrase contains a logical contradiction? Jumbo shrimp is an oxymoron. Jumbo means very large, while shrimp refers to a small crustacean and is also slang for someone very small. The other options are complementary. Adjective-noun pairs. 10. Which of the following is a complete, grammatically correct English sentence? Go is a complete sentence because it is an imperative verb with an implied subject you. Options B and D are dependent clauses sentence fragments because they begin with subordinating conjunctions. Option C is just a noun phrase lacking a predicate. Verb 11. If a plane crashes on the border of the United States and Canada, where do they bury the survivors? This tests reading comprehension and attention to detail. The trick lies in the word survivors. You do not bury survivors because they are still alive. The other options distract the reader by focusing on geography rather than the state of the people. 12. Before Mount Everest was discovered, what was the highest mountain in the world? This is a logic trick based on object permanence. Mount Everest was always the highest mountain in the world. Even before humans discovered or measured it, the other mountains are distractors meant to test geographical knowledge and necessarily. 13. Which phrase logically means the opposite of I could care less, even though native speakers often confuse them? Grammatically, I could care less implies you currently care at least a little bit. I could not care less means your care is at absolute zero, which is the intended meaning when people want to express total apathy. 14. Identify the sentence that implies an action was almost, but not quite, completed. I just missed the train implies the person arrived seconds too late. The action of catching it was almost achieved. Hardly and rarely are adverbs of frequency or degree, while completely indicates total completion. 15. What has cities, but no houses, forests, but no trees, and water, but no fish? This riddle tests semantic reasoning. A map is a visual representation that features the names and outlines of cities, forests, and bodies of water. But it is a piece of paper and contains none of the physical objects. 16. Which of these words is the odd one out logically due to its linguistic properties? Options of B and C are palindromes, meaning they are spelled the exact same way forwards and backwards. Option D, river, becomes revere when reversed, making it the only non-palindrome in the list. 17. I never said she stole my money. How many different meanings can this sentence have depending on which word is stressed? There are 7 words in the sentence. Stressing each different word changes the entire implication. For example, stressing I implies someone else said it. Stressing money implies she stole something else. Therefore, there are 7 distinct logical meanings. 18. Which sentence uses an idiom that means something is very easy to do? A piece of cake is a common English idiom used to describe a task that is simple or easily accomplished. Option A means a very small amount, C means unresolved, and D means very expensive. 19. Read this sentence. The horse raced past the barn fell. Which word acts as the main verb of the entire sentence? This is a famous garden path sentence. It leads you to believe raced is the main verb, but it is actually a reduced relative clause the horse that was raced past the barn. Therefore, fell is the actual main verb describing what the horse did. 20. Which sentence demonstrates a tautology, the needless repetition of an idea? A tautology is a logical redundancy. Reversing a car inherently means moving it backward, so adding the word backward is completely unnecessary. The other options contain descriptive adjectives or adverbs that add new information. 21. Read this sentence. The complex houses married and single soldiers and their families. What part of speech is the word houses here? This is a syntactic ambiguity test. The complex is the noun subject meaning a military base or building complex, and houses is the main verb, meaning to provide shelter for. Most readers initially misread houses as a noun. 22. Determine the logical meaning of this double negative sentence. It is not uncommon for it to snow here. In English grammar, two negatives, not and the prefix n, cancel each other out to create a positive. Therefore, not uncommon logically means that it is common, implying that it snows quite often. 23. Which sentence is grammatically ambiguous, meaning it has two equally valid logical interpretations? Option A is a classic structural ambiguity. It could mean I used a telescope to see a man or I saw a man who was holding a telescope. The prepositional phrase with a telescope can logically attach to either the verb saw or the noun man. 24. Which word correctly completes the following sentence logically and grammatically? Had he known the truth, he'd differently. This tests the third conditional, which describes a hypothetical situation in the past. The structure requires had plus subject plus past participle in the if clause, and would have plus past participle in the main clause. The other options violate this tense. Agreement. 25. The man who the police arrested was proven innocent. Which word is technically incorrect in strict formal grammar, though common in spoken English? In strict formal grammar, whom should be used instead of who because it functions as the object of the verb. Arrested in the relative clause, the police arrested him. Who is a subject pronoun? The other words are grammatically correct. 26. Which sentence uses the subjunctive mood correctly to express a hypothetical or unreal situation? The subjunctive mood is used for unreal conditions for the verb to be in the present or future. Unreal conditional formal English dictates using were for all subjects. If I was is common informally, but technically incorrect in formal hypothetical grammar. 27. What is the grammatical function of the word running in this sentence? His running shoes are ruined. In this context, running acts as a participle specifically functioning as an adjective describing the type of shoes. It is not an action verb here, nor is it acting as a noun. Subject or object, which would make it a gerund. 28. Which of the following sentences correctly demonstrates the future perfect continuous tense? The future perfect continuous tense describes an action that will continue up until a point in the future. It is formed using will have been plus present participle. Option A is simple. Future, C is future perfect, and D is future continuous. 29. Consider the phrase, time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana, in the second half of the sentence. What part of speech is flies? To throw caution to the wind means to act in a completely reckless manner. Ignoring any potential risks, the trash emoji represents throwing away or discarding. The caution sign into the wind. 30. Identify the logical error in this sentence. Irregardless of the weather, we will proceed with the hiking trip. Irregardless is considered a non-standard word. The prefix ir means not and the suffix less means without. Therefore, it technically means not without regard, which is the opposite of the intended meaning. The grammar mistake lies in this double negative. Vocabulary choice.